Okay, let's talk about trigger warnings and safe spaces. The dean at the University of Chicago informed incoming freshmen last week that the university will not condone safe spaces or trigger warnings on campus. Here's a quote from the letter from John Ellison, the dean of students, saying, "Once here, you will discover that one of the University of Chicago's defining characteristics is our commitment to freedom of inquiry and expression. Members of our community are encouraged to speak, write, listen, challenge, and learn without fear of censorship. We do not support so-called trigger warnings. We do not cancel invited speakers because their topics might prove controversial, and we do not condone the creation of intellectual safe spaces where individuals can retreat from ideas and perspective at odds with their own." Huge reaction online. Some people saying this is great. The University of Chicago is not going to coddle students. They are not going to shield students from what many might perceive as bigotry or offensive comments or whatever. And then there are others who have been critical of this letter, saying, you know what? They are going above and beyond and proactively saying, you are going to be offended here. I don't agree with that critique. I think very few people in our audience are going to agree with my view, Jason, because I completely and wholeheartedly support the content of this letter. I am against these trigger warnings. I am against these safe spaces. I believe that you are not being prepared for a life in the real world if from ages 18 to 22, you were protected from anything that might be traumatic or offensive or whatever. Colleges as a whole should be safe spaces for all ideas to be explored. No actual physical violence should be tolerated. No actual bullying or shouting down of any ideas should be tolerated, but it's not productive or conducive. I think I just made another new Urban Dictionary word there, producive. I expect that to be there by tomorrow. It's not conducive nor productive if we are trying to build leaders and people to exist in the real world to protect them in this way in colleges. However, I don't agree with actually sending this letter. And the reason I don't agree with it is I don't actually think that this is a statement colleges should have to make. By default, it should be assumed that colleges are not spaces for safe spaces or trigger warnings. And I know people might hear this and say, but David, because they've become that in many ways, it's perfectly legitimate for the University of Chicago to put together this letter and proactively say it will not be allowed. I say, wait until the trigger warnings and safe spaces are attempted at your school and then say that you don't stand behind them. But I don't know that I agree with the proactive delivery of this letter, although I 110% agree with its content.
Yeah, well, that's a tough one. I believe in the trial by fire, the experience of the world, and that you actually have to go out there and experience and get hardened by society, because it is a cold, hard world out there.
And I know that's what a lot of people say. And I don't even go that far. For me, it's just, if you're going to work somewhere, if you're going to exist in the real world, if you're going to even go to the grocery store, I hear offensive, racist, insulting stuff all the time. I hear stuff in the real world all the time that I recognize if somebody had a traumatic experience in their past related to race discrimination, related to sexual assault, etc. I get how those things could be jarring in some way. But if for 4 years in college, you are sort of conditioned to expect that you will be artificially isolated from those realities will only be more destructive when you get out of college and go to the real world. And that's sort of my big picture on this.
Yeah, there's a fine line there, though, because at some point it becomes assault. It's not, obviously not battery, but assault is just threatening people. And, there's a very fine line there to be written by these schools, because they become liable at some point for this.
But that's not what the letter was about, to be clear. And I agree with you. Anytime, I don't want... Sometimes critiques of political correctness are really just anger by people who want to be deliberately offensive, and I don't support that. And sometimes critiques of safe spaces and trigger warnings are coming from people who just want to deliberately be offensive and upset other people. And I don't support that use of these policies or fighting back against these policies. But big picture, I think I've been clear sort of about my view, and I'm curious to hear from the audience about this. Number one is the content of the letter, which I agree with. And number two, it's the choice to send this letter to freshmen as they are coming into the school before they've even been subjected to these trigger warnings and safe spaces. That I am not so thrilled with. Send me your thoughts and we'll definitely follow up about it. Warby Parker is offering a free 5-day home try-on to give you the opportunity to check out their glasses. I personally wear Warby Parker glasses when I'm not wearing my contact lenses. And I also started with one of these free at-home try-ons of 5 pairs of glasses. You can get your free home try-on and support the David Pakman Show at warbyparkertrial.com/TDPS. I don't really like going into glasses stores and trying on glasses while the salesperson sort of hovers over me. And I like more than 30 seconds to actually figure out whether I like the glasses. So with the Warby Parker home try-on, I was able to pick 5 pairs that I liked, put them on in the comfort of my own home, pick the one I like the most, and then Warby Parker put my prescription lenses in there for me. A lot of people don't know that the eyeglass industry is controlled by just a few big corporations that keep prices very high, like $300 for prescription glasses high, which is just insane. Warby Parker glasses start at $95. That's what mine cost. And for every pair of glasses sold, Warby Parker distributes a pair of glasses to someone in need. You can try 5 pairs and see what you like. Check out the at-home trial and support our show by going to warbyparker.com/TDPS. It costs nothing.